Hello and welcome back to part 2 of chapter 7. We left off with printers and we're going to get into the three types of printer technology now, which are dot matrix. The book calls it impact printers, printing. I call it a dot matrix printer, inkjet and laser jet. So dot matrix are certainly the oldest type of printing technology we have. They're slow, they're noisy, relatively poor quality. Inkjets are good. Notice if you use the term desk jet, that's an HP trademark. Similarly with laser printer, if you call it a laser jet printer, that's a HP trademark. So try to use the generic term where appropriate. And dot matrix. So Okadata used to be a huge. They were the 800-pound gorilla of dot matrix technology, and still, if you go into some small offices, you'll see these dot matrix printers. And the question is why? Why would we still use dot matrix printers? And the until recently, I went to a dentist that still had a dot matrix printer, and the reason is it's the only thing that can print carbon copies, print in triplicate. So if you have a form that you have to, tear away multiple copies, an impact printer, dot matrix printer is the only type of technology that'll work. Now, you might say, well, a laser printer, you would just print off multiple copies, and there's, print off 3 copies if you need 3 copies. But a lot of companies have just warehouses full of forms that they need to use up. I don't know. There's still a place in the world for dot matrix for now. Inkjet is probably the most common type of printer that uses actual ink, and I'm assuming most of you have used one of these at some point in the past. Similarly, laser printers you've probably used before, and you should at least be familiar with the idea that a laser printer has powder toner, as opposed to an inkjet that uses liquid toner. If you've ever changed a laser printer cartridge and gotten toner all over yourself, then you know what the toner is made out of. Just as a consumer, you've probably noticed that it's not the printer that's expensive. The hardware itself is pretty cheap. I got my last laser printer for $60 at Office Depot. Yeah, when they were going out of business here in Edwardsville. The toner costs at least as much as the laser printer does. Same thing with inkjet printers. But the actual printer technology itself isn't that important to me. What's more important to me, especially in the School of Business, is how do you support this stuff? So in all my years of IT management, one of the recurring problems is everybody wants their own printer. And the problem with everybody having their own printer is your support costs go through the roof. Now, here at SIUE, I have my own it's what is an HP OfficeJet printer, and the department pays for toner, and so each faculty has their own printer, which I'm not used to. I'm used to having a neighborhood laser printer. Everybody prints that one. Well, we have that also. We have a large laser printer that the department prints to for making multiple copies when I'm printing things off for students. But the business justification for faculty having their own printer is that because of FERPA privacy laws, the privacy laws that protect your student records, if I need to print off anything that has grades on it or student records, I need to guarantee that that's not going to be leaked in some way, as it might be if I send it to a common neighborhood printer. So that's at least the justification we have for having our own printers. Also, it's just darn convenient. But when you've got a company with 1,000 employees and everybody wants their own printer, are you going to give them each one? No, absolutely not. You're going to have one printer for every 10 people or more. You're also not going to let your customers, and by customers I mean your employees, decide what kind of printer. You want to standardize on one brand, so that there's just one type of toner that you're keeping in stock, as well as the replacement drum kits, all the expendables inside that you're keeping on stock. It's just way too expensive to let your employees have HP and Canon and Brother and Epson and Lexmark and this, that, and the others. It's way too expensive. I don't think the book mentions plotters, but I wanted you to see a picture of what a plotter looks like. It's just another type of printer, inkjet type of printer, but for the paper comes on a large roll for printing off either posters, schematics, blueprints, maps, funny posters. Uh, but plotters are incredibly expensive, and the expendables are expensive as well. Optical scanners. What's funny is a lot of people don't use optical scanners anymore because, I mean, just at home as consumers, you won't use a scanner because you'll just take a picture of it with your phone if you need a quick and dirty copy of it. But for high resolution, nice copies of images, you still need an optical scanner. Notice that we've switched from output devices to input devices. Does that make sense? A monitor is an output device, a printer is an output device, a keyboard, a mouse, which I've skipped over. I'm not going to talk about keyboards and mice. These are input devices. Similarly, an optical scanner is not something for output, it's for input, getting information into your computer. There are two ways to scan things. Scanners work great when you're scanning just graphics. Scanning in a photo, scanning a picture, technology is very mature and looks beautiful. OCR, on the other hand, optical character recognition, not so much. I mean, ever since I've been doing IT, this has been the promise that you can just take a stack of text documents, of old printouts, and just drop them into a high density scanner, and it'll chug through it and just recognize all the text, and you'll have beautiful electronic copies of everything, and you can throw all the paper away. The reality really is that OCR still, I mean, 30 years later, is not ready for prime time, just because you still have to go back through and check that it scanned all the words correctly, which is still incredibly labor intensive. Does it get 95% of it right? Probably on a good day, but that's a problem, especially with medical records. Every single character needs to be exactly right. You can't transpose a sulfate with a sulfite if it scans it wrong, because that's going to kill somebody. So OCR is still, if your company uses some kind of OCR technology that really works well, please let me know. One more output technology is audio devices. This is what a sound card looks like on that connects onto your motherboard. I don't spend a lot of time on audio devices just because I've never seen a business case for audio devices, short of a department that's doing some kind of multimedia, they're recording commercials or something, but I mean, even that you outsource. No business user really has a business need for any kind of sophisticated sound equipment, so I've never ordered computers with high-end sound, just whatever's integrated onto the motherboard itself. It's a lot cheaper. Speech recognition is towards the end of the chapter, as a feature of audio, but again, it's something that we've been wrestling with for 30 years, and I still don't consider ready for prime time. I had delusions of being able to transcribe portions of my dissertation or portions of the interviews electronically using Dragon Naturally Speaking. They're the biggest vendor in this. Yes, you have speech recognition built into Windows as well. It's not as sophisticated as Dragon's product that's been around for forever. It does require a DSP, a digital signal processor, in your audio card that's going to help with the translation. The other big problem is just that you can't immediately start using it. You have to train it. You have to train it for your voice, which requires you reading off all this text to the software so that it can start to learn how your voice works. And again, it's going to get 90, 95% of it correct. But the stuff it misses, it's still very labor intensive to go back through and correct what the software did not catch. If you want to play around with speech recognition, it's fun. It's fun to play around with. If you go into Windows in your control panel, you've got something called speech recognition options. You can turn this on and start training it for how to recognize your voice. It's fun to play with. There's just not a lot of business application for it yet. The advantage of speech recognition, part of it is not many people know how to type anymore. Most of you just do this, the hunt and peck. That's what my daughter does. The index finger uh, thing. Most people have not taken an actual typing class. Um, Sadly, the most useful class I ever took in high school was my typing class. So I got up to 90 words per minute. I'm probably a little faster than that now. Being able to touch type has been a huge advantage. Coming out of college, that was one of the few skills I actually had, was being able to touch type, which meant I was able to input data a lot faster than most. But most people can talk even faster than they can type, so that's one possible advantage in the future. Uh, Carpal tunnel and repetitive stress injuries are a big problem if you're just typing all day long. That's not really good for your body. The problem, like I said, is the error rate, and having to train different speakers is why it just has not caught on much. I do think this is a good place to insert some topics around uh, how to deal with different disabilities. So for the visually impaired, I do want you to watch this video because I think it's important to see how blind people struggle with using a computer. One of the doctoral students at UNCG that I worked with was blind, and of course is doing research on uh, how blind people use computers and interact with computers. And of course they have to have some kind of software. It's a screen scraper or a screen reader that just reads all the text that's on the screen to them. So blind people can use a computer, but it's very annoying, especially as more and more programs use graphics. The screen scraper can't read the graphic. If you have text inside of a graphic, it can't translate that. Also, what it's translating is, in fact, all the code behind the graphic. So it's incredibly annoying. So you get this, and I had to use this with my friend when I was helping him out, and it gives you an incredible amount of mental fatigue. You'll see what I mean if you watch the video about it's not easy to listen to this computerized voice reading off to you. It's very difficult. And for hearing impaired as well, please remember, I'm just talking to programmers now, uh, keep the visually impaired in mind when you're designing your applications. Also keep the hearing impaired in mind. There's actually a legal requirement for you to include closed captioning on any video content that you use. So especially in a business, any video that you produce internally must be closed captioned in order to be ADA compliant, Americans with Disabilities Act compliant. The last topic, again, is not in the book, but I think it's important. I want you to, we've talked about input-output devices, but think of a data center where you've got dozens, if not hundreds, if not in some cases, thousands of servers, all in a row, typically, and all of them with a video port on the back, a audio port on the back, a keyboard port on the back, a mouse port on the back, a network port on the back, a power port. Everything needs to be plugged in. Now you can't get around the Ethernet and the power for each server, but you can get around having to have a separate monitor, separate keyboard, and separate mouse for every single server in your data center. And the way around this is with a KVM switch. So KVM simply stands for keyboard, video, mouse. And so I've got a picture of one here that shows how you can connect multiple servers with the VGA. Newer ones obviously have DVI, but VGA works because you don't need high resolution for just managing servers. It just doesn't matter. You shouldn't be watching videos on your servers, is what I'm saying, in the data center. Not to say I haven't, but you shouldn't need to. Yeah, so you can plug everything in straight from the server into your KVM switch, and then just have one single output from this box into a one monitor, keyboard, and mouse that you just hit a button and switch to any server in the rack. It saves space, and it's much simpler to use. So if you get into managing data centers at all, you're definitely going to run into a KVM switch, which to me is the most useful output technology I ever ran into in my life. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this chapter, and I look forward to covering chapter 8 with you. Thanks. Bye-bye.